All right, do we have audio? Can you guys hear me now? Can you can hear me now? Just I need to double check. Give me a thumbs up in the comments. All right, let's see it. Line it up. Okay, good. Thank you, AS3SXP. Appreciate that. Technology. Gotta love it, especially when you've got everything tied together with nicotine gum and shoestring. What are you gonna do? All right, thumbs up. Appreciate that, Chicken Man. All right, so we got a lot to get to. Of course, we've got to discuss the latest in litigation against Illinois' gun and magazine ban. Governor J.B. Pritzker was making the national media rounds discussing his thoughts on gun control and maybe trying to elevate his national profile. We'll also share a conversation with William J. Kelly, Chicago reporter, and talk about the cost of migrant spending from the city, from the state, and so on. So a ton to get to. I'm technically still on vacation, but I figured I'd just hop on with the short Thanksgiving week ahead of us to keep you guys somewhat in the loop of what's going on. So unshaven, had a good weekend with the brothers, so was able to take in some stuff. So let's go ahead and get right on into it, and let's talk about the latest in litigation against Illinois' gun and magazine ban. Governor J.B. Pritzker making the national media rounds, talking about how the federal government needs to go about banning what he calls assault weapons, while the semi-automatic weapons ban that he has here in Illinois faces challenges up and down the federal judiciary. Welcome back. Bishop on Air. You can find me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air on Twitter, Facebook, here on YouTube. If you want to support the show, also be sure to check out the store, which we opened up this week. Actually, it was last week. Still technically on vacation, but figured I'd hop on and give you guys a bit of an update here. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. We've got Governor J.B. Pritzker, who made the rounds on Jen Psaki's show this past weekend, talking about firearms and what he would like to see happen with firearms, and in particular, the issue of gun control. Here he is talking with Jen Psaki.
Because it's another issue that you've been very outspoken on. You're among a group of governors who have had some success at a time when people are looking for success in this area. When it comes to passing common sense reforms, you signed a ban earlier this year on high-powered semi-automatic weapons, and an appeals court recently upheld that. But nationally, even despite all of the tragedies we've seen, there just is not I shouldn't say nationally, in Washington, there is not an appetite for change. Why do you think that is?
Well, people have to get a spine. You know, the NRA has controlled the Congress for far too long. Organizations that are pro-gun, that would be fine if everybody had a gun, those organizations have been in charge. And it's time for them to, the members of Congress, to recognize that the majority of the public out here in the rest of the country are in favor of keeping families safe when they go to a parade like happened in Highland Park. and they expect to be able to enjoy themselves on July 4th, and instead, gunmen on top of our roof in Highland Park with 3 high-capacity 30-round magazines, 3 of those, and an AR-15 style weapon, killed 7 people and shot 48 others, all in a matter of 60 seconds. 83 bullets fired in 60 seconds. Who needs a weapon like this? Only people who are in a war. Only our soldiers need weapons like that, not civilians out in the hinterlands here. And so I do believe this is an issue that is important to the American people, but once again, with Republicans in control of the House of Representatives and Donald Trump at the top of the Republican ticket, it appears that it's going to be very difficult to get something passed. Joe Biden wants to get a ban on assault weapons passed. I met with him, with the mayor of Highland Park, with the commander of the Highland Park Police, and he expressed it in no uncertain terms, and we want to help him do that.
Between now and then, do you think it's going to be up to the states to make reforms happen?
It is. I mean, I think we've seen that because of inaction in Washington on so many issues, that power has devolved to the states. And being a governor, I can say that it's an effort that I take on with some zeal, and indeed we've been successful at passing not just an assault weapons ban, but a ban on high-capacity magazines, a ban on switches that turn regular guns into an automatic weapon, and protecting abortion rights, and putting in place a ban on book bans. Protecting people's individual rights, that's something that we out here in the states are going to have to do state by state until the federal government finally gets its act together.
So again, that's Governor J.B. Pritzker on former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki's program this past weekend, talking about not just book bans and more access to abortion in Illinois, but also talking about what he calls common sense gun control. And that's clearly something that he's going to continue to advance, while the measure that he implemented earlier this year that has that January 1st deadline for people to register their banned firearms with state police or face criminal penalties, that faces challenges all up and down the federal judiciary. And when you look at the latest in that, you've got, of course, up in the U.S. Supreme Court, Dan Calkins' case, as we talked about last week. It was docketed on the 14th, and the state has until December 14th to respond. And this deals not just with the question of the gun ban and the due process and equal protections. It really does delve into the questions of conflict of interest. We've talked about that quite a bit, especially when it comes to the Illinois Supreme Court and their ruling that was delivered in August. And how you had Dan Calkins say that 2 of the Supreme Court justices had taken $1 million each from Governor J.B. Pritzker when they were running for the office, and that raises questions of a conflict of interest. And as we've talked about before in the past with experts from outside of Illinois, even just the perception of a conflict of interest can really be problematic to people's judiciary. The trust in the judiciary. So that's an issue there. But it's not just the U.S. Supreme Court where this could come up, as Pritzker talks about wanting to get the Congress to pass a ban on certain semi-automatic firearms, and saying that these AR-15s are things that only soldiers should have. This was obviously an argument in the appeals courts where it seemed that the 3-judge panel, 2 of the 3 judges in the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, they indicated that, if the military is using it, then it's off limits to the general public, which you've got the federal firearms licensees of Illinois and others in court in the lower district, Southern District of Illinois, arguing that that essentially means that the military can have a veto on what the regular citizens can have, just by saying, hey, say they take a standard 9mm pistol with a 10-round magazine. And all of a sudden, is that off limits to the general public? So it's interesting to hear those arguments that the governor is parroting from the 2 of the 3 appeals court justices. But the appeals court is being asked now by a whole range of groups to actually do an en banc review. So this was on Friday when this was brought up. You had the petition for a rehearing and a petition for en banc by Caleb Barnett, Hoods, Guns, and More, National Shooting Sports Foundation, Brian Norman, and Pro Gun and Indoor Range. You got C4 Gun Store, Firearms Policy Coalition, Dane Herald, Illinois State Rifle Association, Marengo Guns, Second Amendment Foundation, all of them incorporated in another case. Then you've got Timothy Jones, Jeremy Langley, Matthew Wilson. That's in the MAG case. Appellees Deborah Clark, Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois, Gun Owners Foundation, Gun Owners of America, Gun Save Life, Chris Moore, Piasaw Armory, and Jasmine Young. All of them with their filing of a petition for en banc. So that was filed on the 17th, and I'm still waiting to see if we can get access to that particular filing, but through through Pacer, it's still saying that it's not available yet. So we will be reviewing all of these documents, of course, as they're filed in the courts. But you've got the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals having already ruled that the state's likely to succeed on the merits, while also speculating that the military can essentially void the rights of citizens and what types of firearms they can own, not just own, but be able to have in their own home. And the questions of, can a state go about and banning commonly owned firearms like an AR-15, like an AK-47, like any other semi-automatic firearms, and some hunting shotguns. But the Second Amendment, is it about hunting? That's a question I've posed to a variety of individuals. So up and down the judiciary, as the governor says that he's looking to ultimately have Congress pass some kind of gun control legislation to ban semi-automatic firearms. Would that include a registry? Is the governor wanting to take what Illinois is doing and put that onto the federal government to have a ban? Would that have to be challenged? Are we going to see some outcomes from either Dan Calkins' case that could overturn the Illinois Supreme Court case? Or are we going to see an injunction in the Southern District where we're still waiting on a couple of different pieces here? You've got the Southern District of Illinois having heard the Langley case about vagueness. That was back in October when they heard that. And you've got the Judge Stephen McGlynn still waiting to see what kind of ruling he's going to put in the Langley case, because they heard that it was for final judgment in challenging the state's vagueness issues, and saying that the law that has the January 1st deadline to register firearms or else face criminal penalties is just too vague. So Thomas Magg, the attorney for Langley et al., brought this in front of Judge Stephen McGlynn. And then you had McGlynn ultimately hear that case, but yet we have yet to get any kind of ruling on that. So we're still waiting there. But meanwhile, back in the Southern District of Illinois, you also have the Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois and other plaintiffs that have went ahead and filed for their preliminary injunction motion to block the state from implementing that January 1st deadline. So that is obviously another area we're watching and continuing to watch, and we have yet to see yet what will happen next, because coming up tomorrow, they've got a status conference. All right, so we'll be monitoring that. Of course, it's a short holiday weekend, but a status conference is set in the case for the Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois in the Southern District of Illinois. This is not a hearing. This is just a status. All right, so we'll find out when exactly the next oral arguments are going to be in this case from the Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois, because I think that that's going to be rather telling, especially with their arguments that the due process wasn't necessarily followed when it comes to having enough time to review these rules. The January 1st deadline needs to be postponed while this plays through the courts. So we'll have a status conference on that case that the FFL of Illinois brought in the Southern District, all while you've got the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals en banc requests and the U.S. Supreme Court. There's a lot of moving pieces, even on this Thanksgiving week. So we'll keep you updated where we can and see if we can tap into that status hearing as well. All right, be sure to follow me anywhere, Bishop on Air. Appreciate you guys hanging out even past the technical difficulties for the live stream on this Monday morning. I'm still technically on vacation, but figured I'd hop on and share some thoughts with you. Also, if you could, support the show, follow the store links below the YouTube page, or find more information at bishoponair.com. Bishoponair.com. That's the website where you can find all the links that you can contact me with. And also get get access to the store proper. So be sure to check that out. All right, coming back, I will share with you a conversation I had with William Kelly, reporter out of Chicago. So that's next segment here on Bishop on Air. All right, so stay tuned. It's coming up in just mere moments. All right, make it happen, Captain. Well, after having the past week off, I definitely want to check in with William Kelly out of Chicago to get us updated on everything that's happened there in the past week, if not more. I know we've only got limited time, William, but plenty to tackle. I want you to update me, though, on the migrant situation. I know the governor last week, he came out and he said Chicago's not doing enough. He wants to see more done, especially with the colder temperatures when it comes to actual physical housing, not just tents. But what is the latest in the back and forth and what seems to be some tensions between Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson when it comes to dealing with the migrant situation?
Well, there's definitely some tension there. I think that when Mayor Johnson first got elected, Governor Pritzker wanted to, be a mentor type relationship with Johnson. But I think that Governor Pritzker, I almost said President Pritzker, is getting very, very nervous about Mayor Johnson and the city of Chicago due to the fact that he's going to be hosting the DNC. Some people are actually saying that he's hoping to be hosting his own nomination to be president of the United States in 2024. But under Mayor Johnson, Chicago is continuing in this horrible death spiral of violent crime and this out of control migrant crisis. And when I say out of control, I literally mean out of control. Okay. There's no plan. Millions upon millions of dollars are being spent. These base camps, if you recall the base camp idea of putting migrants in tents in the middle of winter, we don't even have the tents. So not only is that a horrible idea on its face, we don't even the tents haven't even been put up yet. So Johnson is spending all of this money, which we're investigating in a series of reports called Migrant Inc. If you want to take a look at that at reporterwilliamjkelly.com. But it's becoming a bit of a crisis for Pritzker and his ambitions, because between the crime and the migrants, Chicago and Illinois, obviously, and Pritzker, by extension, will not be looking very good on the national stage during the DNC, Greg.
Well, you've got a lot of money going out, as you said, with your investigative reporting on how much this is costing, with middlemen getting contracts to conduct health or wraparound services, so they say. The governor, of course, stepping up and saying that they're going to be appropriating $160 million or so. We've already seen hundreds of millions of dollars spent on all of this. What's the sentiment on the ground from the taxpayers who live in communities that feel that they've been disinvested in all of this time?
This is the issue that might unite all of Chicago against Pritzker and Johnson. The fact of the matter is that no Chicagoans, South Side, North Side, downtown, want the migrant camps, migrant shelters, Aldermen are in revolt against Mayor Johnson on this. And the spending is also very, very alarming. Our investigation of Johnson's, what we call his migrant managers or migrant vendors, is that they're being, they are getting filthy rich on the backs of this migrant crisis. And we actually have migrants who are saying that they are leaving Chicago, in some cases going back to Venezuela. Greg, if you can even imagine this, this is like it almost sounds like a joke, that if somebody had told me a few years ago, just even a handful of years ago, that migrants from Venezuela would be turning their noses up at the city of Chicago, the city that I was born and raised to believe was the greatest city in the history of the world. And I would have thought it was an actual joke. But this is what is actually happening. And migrants are saying that the American dream is dead. Well, I think, I've said on your show and on national shows that the American dream is dead for Chicago residents, for citizens of Chicago. And Mayor Johnson, despite the fact that he won't allow me into city of Chicago press conferences in the press room at City Hall, he's responding to our reporting, Greg, and obviously, what we report on your show is clearly getting to the mayor, because he is scrambling now. But like a cartoon character that scrambles on wet pavement or something, he doesn't seem to be getting any traction anywhere. He's starting to scramble. He's starting to show that he somehow understands that things are not going well, but he doesn't. We don't, for all the millions of dollars spent, we are yet to see a single tent.
It's pretty remarkable. William Kelly from Chicago reporting for us here with Bishop on Air. And I'm looking at some of these headlines, William, out of the Chicago Sun-Times, and it's just it's pretty staggering. And just to kind of flash this on the screen, you've got a 16-year-old girl grazed in Irvin Park. Man dies in Calumet garage fire. That might not be necessarily crime, but other headlines: man fatally shot in Far South Side. 72-year-old man fatally shot in Logan Square. 3 men fatally shot in Brighton Park. Man fatally shot while driving motorcycle in New City. 29-year-old found shot in Washington Park Alley. Man fatally shot in Washington Park. It goes on and on and on. And where's the focus on tamping down on crime? Is this the words that Mayor Johnson's putting out there and the sentiment he's putting out there of, kids just got to cut up? Or is this, a lack of prosecution and a lack of actual holding criminals accountable? What's going on there in Chicago where we see these regular headlines weekend after weekend?
It's not only Johnson's rhetoric, although that's a huge part of it. He's definitely, making it clear that it's open season on crime victims in Chicago. On Michigan Avenue, a particularly horrific case, a stewardess, 20, in her 20s, was a 21-year-old, was walking down Michigan Avenue in front of the Burberry store, if you can picture this, and a violent repeat offender from the South Side of Chicago picked up a log from a Christmas display in front of a Starbucks, reportedly, and hurled it at her face like a javelin. And she's been unresponsive in the hospital ever since, traumatic brain injuries. Now, the only reason, and this is what my sources are telling me, that Johnson and Pritzker are upset about this, because they haven't said a word about the woman. They haven't expressed any sympathies or concern for the stewardess, the woman who's clearly going to have injuries that will haunt her for the rest of her life as a result of this. But they're worried about the DNC. They're worried about how this is going. If there are stories of people dying on Michigan Avenue. There was a man who was sucker punched in front of the Cartier store, if you can picture this, who died on the street. And and nothing has really been said or done about it. It's a one-day story at best in the city of Chicago now when these kinds of things happen. And Pritzker and Johnson are really only worried about how this is going to harm their DNC gala.
And you've mentioned several times the DNC. You've mentioned the governor on a national stage. He, time and again, William, has said that he is not seeking to run for president, even though he was on with Jen Psaki this past weekend on national media talking about a variety of things, even though he's said that he's going to support Biden wholeheartedly. The DNC is going to be in Chicago next year. What do you think's going to happen here? I mean, does he really have these presidential ambitions? Is it something for in the future, or is this something a little bit more immediate?
Well, I hate to say, toot my own horn here, but of course, as you well know, Greg, if I don't do it, nobody will. As I said on the Tucker Carlson show, I think about over a year ago, Biden will be the Democrat nominee, and you can go ahead and book that. Biden will not. Did I say Biden or Pritzker? Biden will not be the Democrat nominee. Governor J.B. Pritzker will be the Democrat nominee for president of the United States in 2024. He will receive his party's nomination here in the city of Chicago in August of 2024. And the only thing that he is concerned about right now is that somehow these pesky crime victims and these migrants from Venezuela are going to somehow ruin his party, his gala, his DNC festivities. So this is you're going to see a lot of taxpayer dollars spent to throw a fresh coat of paint on Chicago, but between now and then, but you can't really paint over the kinds of crime numbers that we're dealing with. Over the weekend, this last weekend alone, 24 people were shot, 8 killed in the city of Chicago. Typically, when the weather, the old saying, the Chicago motto at this point is "Sun's out, guns out," right? But when the sun, typically at this time of year, the shootings slow down. We had a Festival of Lights parade on Saturday. These are not typically shooting incidents in the city of Chicago. You typically have people who come in from the suburbs who shop. I've already talked to a number of business owners in the city of Chicago. They are saying that that the metrics that they're looking at in terms of shipping and the truck drivers and the orders, they're anticipating a very, very bad shopping season, Christmas shopping, that is, and all of these numbers, from crime to the economy to migrants, do not bode well for Pritzker. Pritzker's number one issue is to try and do something about gun violence, but the problem is that every single person, every single suspect that's arrested in a gun-related crime has already been arrested for multiple gun offenses. So clearly, none of the laws that are currently on the books regarding gun crimes are being enforced. If you this man, the South Side man, Bruce Diamond is his name, who hurled this Christmas display at the stewardess and put her in a coma. He has 21 criminal convictions, according to the reports that we've been able to obtain. Multiple charges in Illinois. What was he on the street for? So this is if they can't enforce the laws that are already on the books, trying to somehow prevent law-abiding citizens from being able to defend themselves from these multiple repeat offenders that are clearly owning the Magnificent Mile. How are people? How are people in the state of Illinois or the city of Chicago supposed to go Christmas shopping? It's these policies I don't know if, Pritzker is, I don't know if Johnson understands the implications of his policies. I don't, prior to becoming mayor, he was a part-time teacher. God only knows what he's capable of understanding about running a city. But Pritzker is, nobody's ever accused him of being dumb. He's obviously a very smart man. He's obviously he surrounded himself with people who are, policy people. He must realize that out of control violent crime, an out of control migrant crisis, and horrible economic indicators are not going to bode well for his DNC being nominated at his DNC gala.
And we'll definitely be watching this closely. It's unbelievable to think that we're less than a year away from the November 2024 election. But before that, we got primaries to get through, how the Democrats are going to handle Joe Biden as an incumbent, what that looks like heading into the August DNC in Chicago. William Kelly, greatly appreciate your time as always. We'll definitely be talking again in the near future.
God bless you, Greg. Thank you.
So there you go. That is, of course, William Kelly, a reporter with Chicago credentials and getting the latest of what's going on in the Windy City, but also some speculation as to what's going to happen with Governor J.B. Pritzker, and is he indeed edging himself to become the Democrats' nominee if Joe Biden isn't capable of running in 2024. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Again, I'm on vacation still, so I'm going to go and kick back and relax, maybe do a little bit more engineering here, but we will be back in full effect tomorrow. It's a short Thanksgiving week, but we, of course, have got tons to tackle. We'll talk about the firearm owner identification card with new board members. Also, don't forget, you've got iGold coming up. The date for iGold has been set. It's going to be in April. If you don't follow the Illinois State Rifle Association, you should probably go check that out because they do on Twitter have it posted that iGold is coming up let me pull this up really quick. Make sure we got this. April 18th. All right, so put that on your calendar. April 18th, Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day. So we'll have to revisit some of the conversation around that as well. All right. Have yourselves a great day. See you back here tomorrow. Promise I'll get it launched at about 7:30, 7:40, and hopefully we don't have any audio snafus. So thanks for checking in, guys. Be sure to check out the store if you're interested in a Bishop on Air hoodie or a hat or a coffee mug, especially just in time for the holidays. All right, guys. Later on. Have a good day.